pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council meeting is called to order. Following Nancy's roll call.
Mayor Reinauer.
Here.
Earl.
Here.
Ewing.
Here.
Barton.
Here.
Knox.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. So approved. Just call, should report.
$1,678,022.81 in all funds, $353,495.74 in the general fund.
Any additions?
There were additions today, and you all should have gotten a copy. It was payroll day. So you all should have a copy of the payroll additions.
Okay, bills were read. Resolution 17-9-1 was adopted on motion by.
Earl.
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Ewing.
Yeah.
Barton.
Yes.
Knox.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All right, let's go to the guest section. Lisa Nichols. Try to take about 3 minutes if you would,
I think
please.
it's 5, isn't it, Mayor? Isn't
Pardon?
it a 5-minute limit?
Probably 3. We can take 5.
I'm just saying, just in case, but I don't know that I'll take that long. This is just kind of a follow-up from my last appearance before council, which I know I took well over 5 minutes and probably used up some that I have today. So we'll try to keep it brief. I want to thank your attorney and Jerry for providing me with the documents that I requested via public records. You were able to decipher what I needed. I was not aware of what the actual report was called, so thank you for that. What I actually needed was the delinquent billing journal for the utilities for the village of Waynesfield. And Jerry provided that to me dated August 17th, which would have been after the final due date of all utilities for the month of August. And what I'd like to give to you is my interpretation of what this document says. I don't know if it's something that council has gotten before or does not get or is discussed in executive session or whatever, but on review and after discussion with Jerry on clarification of some of the items to make sure that I was looking correctly at the documents, out of 354 accounts, 99 were delinquent. Of that 99 accounts, the total was $33,775.60. Now, a lot of those were 1 month, which means they maybe had gone beyond the past due date, didn't mean they weren't going to pay it before the shut-off date. I don't know that because I haven't gotten a follow-up report. But of those 99 accounts, 17 of them were greater than 2 months, with one being 6 months in an amount of $1,516.69. So given that, the total of the ones that were beyond 2 months was $7,248.43. Now you say, okay, Lisa, well, letters were sent out. My understanding from one of my neighbors, they received a letter actually on pink paper saying that all in the rearage utilities had to be paid by the 10th of this month. I don't know what that garnered in terms of his total amount. As I said, I haven't requested an updated delinquent journal, which I plan to do. The reason I'm before council today is I think that it is my responsibility as a citizen and your responsibility as council members to be aware of what's happening with our tax dollars. And the village has to pay for this electricity. Whether the residents pay for it or not, the village has to pay for it. And so those dollars are coming out of our tax dollars that we're paying to the village to run the village. And yet there's a portion of this that is not being collected timely. So I want two things. I want, one, to know that our tax money is being used for the village, not to subsidize individuals' utilities. And number two, I want to see a process in place that ensures that this doesn't happen again. 6 months is entirely too long for a bill of almost $2,000. And this $1,500 was after what I knew I had been told over $500 and been paid on. And I don't know if it's up to date yet or not. Like I said, I don't know where all of these stand. But I do think that as a citizen of the community and a taxpayer, that I have the right to say, you know, this is not good business. It's not good business for our tax dollars. So again, I'm only asking for two things. Number one, that as council members, you ensure that our tax dollars are being spent in the ways that they should be, and not to subsidize as loans, in essence, to people. The best I could tell from the total delinquencies would be that 10% of that $33,000 should have been the delinquent amount collected. But yet in the journal, it indicates that only $2,972.51 would have been the delinquent amount. I guess, to me, there needs to be investigation. Are these accounts that are 6 months old being charged interest? Or have they only been charged the penalty once because they were late once? Are they charged the penalty every month? You know, there's just so many unknown questions that I don't know the answers to. And I see that Mr. Rao is not here today. I understand he's at a conference. Maybe those are questions that he knows the answers to and can provide some clarification. But I hope that we can take care of those two things. Come up with a process that ensures that people are paying their bills in a timely fashion. Nobody's going beyond 30 days or 30 days at the most past due. And number two, that our tax dollars aren't being used to subsidize utilities, because that's what's happening right now.
I was clerk for the light years. It's been a lot of years ago. But back then, I noticed it was usually the same people who were delinquent, and it was people who were either on assistance or on Social Security. And once they get behind a month, they can't make that up. They're always going to be behind a month.
Mhm.
You know.
And I understand that, Sharon. That's why I looked at the ones with 2,
But
3,
it doesn't,
4. Yeah.
you know, it didn't go on
Mhm.
because they didn't allow it to. The light board did not allow it to go on.
And the
like
other
that.
thing that Mr. Rao said to me was that they no longer put up, they call them door knockers, that if you're delinquent, they put a thing on your door that says, if you don't pay your bill, you're gonna get shut off. And his comment to me was, he's not doing that because the guys didn't like to do it, it was embarrassing. And, well, you know what? If people are behind their bills, they're behind their bills. They need to know that, and they need to know there's some kind of repercussion. I'm not gonna belabor it. I think I've made my point. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer anything about what I've said to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you. We can't fix it if we don't know it's broke. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's all I'm trying to say. I think it's broke.
Lois?
If I may, I'd like to share a form with council members and the solicitor. Pass this back so that you know what I'm referring to. If you could point to this. This particular form was given to us as landlords to give to our respective tenants in our properties. And there are actually 2 separate items that are mentioned in this particular document. So just to keep it brief for you, what I'm asking is if this particular document could be reviewed, and if it could say what it means and mean what it says, so that it's clear to both the tenant and the landlord as to what the expectations are. This refers back to the Board of Public Affairs and obviously an ordinance that they had in place. But also you'll notice down at the very bottom, there is a release that a tenant signs, giving the landlord the opportunity to check on the utility bill. So, in my mind's eye, it's not good business to mix two separate topics here, because one deals with A or B, or one or two. Either a $200 deposit is put down on a property if it's a rental, or there's a signature of the landlord that says they're taking responsibility if utilities are not paid. Okay? Then the last paragraph deals with the release of a tenant saying, I give my landlord the permission to be able to check to make sure that my utilities are paid up. Okay? So, if I was confused and my renters were confused when I tried to explain this form to them, I would think that maybe somehow with the great minds that we have in this room, that we can get this maybe clarified so that everyone knows what the village is saying and what the expectations are. Any questions?
You just want it separated on like two
Well-
different forms?
Again, I don't know how old this is because this form is not dated. So we don't know the origination of it, and that's kind of a confusion also. Just in record-keeping issues of knowing, am I using the most current form for what I'm supposed to be doing? So that would be helpful. But if there is reference back to a particular regulation, then the regulations, in my opinion, should be separate from a release that a tenant signs giving their landlord the authority to check with the village that their bills are paid. Okay? Because I recognize having my tenants put their own $200 deposit down, which is number one on the list, that I have no right to come up here and ask, have they paid their bill? Unless they paid, they've signed a release form, all right? And I don't want to infringe on their rights, but I also want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence in making sure that I don't get stuck with an exorbitant utility bill.
I can remember when we did this and we were having trouble with, if you were renters, you had to pay a deposit, and if you owned your property, you didn't have to have a deposit. And that had something to do with this wording and stuff, and then people were renting and skipping out and the owners didn't know. So that's why we had that where if you own a property and somebody rents it, you can get all the information, but somewhere it got lost in the translation or something, I don't know, but we tried to take care of everybody on this.
And I respect that, I do. I mean, times change and people do also. And I guess all I'm asking is that we maybe review this document and see if we can update it to clarify the issues and to certainly try to work with the landlords so that no one is stuck with an exorbitant bill. Just shouldn't happen. And as far as I'm concerned, the verbiage on our utility bills where it says your utilities may be turned off by the 30th, I believe they should say they shall be. Thank you.
While we're on this subject, I'm gonna jump ahead about 40 pages to the old business delinquent utility termination ordinance that you received in your packet. Reed, could you kind of help us out here on explanation and what the changes and so on would be?
Sure, so
That would
this is-
benefit the village and landlord, so on and so forth.
Sure, well, this is something, once again, was, I think, a brainchild of Fred. Basically, we felt that this was, or he felt this was a proper compromise to some of the problems that were brought up at the last meeting with having the large delinquency charges sort of being on the books and not wanting to, shut off people right away as soon as they, came delinquent. So what we ended up coming up with was essentially, the utility bills are all going to be due by, the 15th of one month, and then if they aren't paid, they become delinquent and incur a 10% penalty charge. But then after they become delinquent, they have 30 days to essentially pay the delinquency. And then if the delinquency isn't paid by the 30-day period, the property will be shall be utilities shut off. And then in order to get that reinstated, the person receiving utility services will have to become current, pay the whole thing, as well as pay whatever the $30 reconnection fee is, unless that person happens to have some sort of medical excuse and gets it to us before the final day that shut-off is supposed to occur. So that's what I think Fred felt was a good compromise, and that's what the language speaks to.
I don't really read it that way. It's section 2 or section 3. All utility bills not paid in full by the final day of the month shall be subject to service termination. Well, it's due on the 15th, and on the 16th you get your 10% charge, and on the 30th or 31st it gets turned off.
No,
That's it.
it's on the 15th day of the next month is when it'll get turned off. So they have 30 days total
Yeah, we
from
have
when
to
it
give,
becomes
we have to give
delinquent.
30 days. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to give 30 days, particularly in the winter time.
That seems
So you're actually extending it out longer before you turn them off.
Mhm.
But it has to be,
You're giving them 30 days.
You're giving them a 30-day period of total delinquency before it's shut off.
Has to be
But
paid-
you're
has to
changing
be paid in
the
full.
verbiage from May.
Well-
Is 30, so it's only 15 days.
And what about the
I was
landlords?
gonna say, will they be advised of what's,
Because
when this is gonna take place? So they know?
Lisa wants to ask a question.
Sure.
when you say current, are you saying they have to, because
Pay the entire delinquency.
everything, including what they're owed up, like if it's due the 15th of this month,
Yes.
they're
Mhm.
still getting electricity until the 15th of next month.
Yes.
So it would have to be everything they owe up until the 15th of the next month, not current as of last month. Is that what the ordinance says?
See, we're always 30 days behind.
Yeah, we're always 30 days
basically.
behind anyway, that
Mhm.
makes them 60 days. I'm just saying, that's a
Just
thought.
for
And
clarification.
then the second thing is, do you mention, in Ohio Revised Code, it says that if you are an active duty veteran, that you are allowed to have an extension beyond anything the village says.
Well,
That's in Ohio Revised Code, so I don't
And
know if
that-
that
that's what
actually
you're saying,
happens.
if there's some type of medical or
Mm.
any other type of, then we have to know that ahead of time. And then we'll deal with that by case.
I'm just saying, Ohio Revised Code says you must. If they're an active duty veteran, you have to give them the same amount of time that they were active duty to bring that bill up to snuff, and that you cannot shut them off. I'm just, that's in the Ohio Revised Code.
But we have to be advised of that from whoever that person may be.
mm.
Sure, I understand that.
And if there's an amendment that we need to make to this ordinance later, we certainly can make an amendment to account for that. But this was created in order to deal with the current problem.
Well, I think we'll try to get it right the first time and not do a bunch of amendments. Here's something I don't really care too much for this service. The Services will not be restored until the delinquent bill is paid in full and a $30 reconnection fee is paid. Said connection fee must be paid for each utility that was shut off. Pardon me?
$90, right?
Yeah. And for years, we have problem, we turn the electric off and people would get generators and they would use them. It happened several times. And then if we go ahead and turn their water off, then the sewers didn't work and pretty soon they was paying their light bill. We've had every problem imaginable, but it's because somebody has a $100 light bill and they can't pay it. $90 to connect it back up to me is excessive. I mean, if they're down, why you want to kick them harder? I just don't. I think the electric is the main thing. And really, there is no way to shut their sewer off, I don't think, but it'd be kind of costly.
We could send it back.
Yeah.
That only happens when it rains a whole lot.
That has happened.
Blowback.
That's just my opinion. I don't
Well,
want
the whole
to.
intent is not a scare tactic or anything else, but this is what it is. And most people, if this is what it is, oh, I better take care of
Okay,
this
clear. I'll be 59.
before I pay my cell phone or my whatever, type of thing. Because people have to make choices.
I kind of feel like our administrator is passing the buck on us. He's wanting to let this get all out of control. Now he's not here and he wants us to take the blame for it and make all these new rules. Just wanted to say that.
I think it's a team effort in the community. I do, to be frank with you. I think we all have to work together. I know that Lisa and I both, Fred stopped over, he spoke with us. We made it clear to him that we weren't being critical of the people who work for the village or the people who are running the village. We weren't being critical of the products that the village supplies to us. We were merely talking about some processes that we were asking that they be looked at. And we're willing to try to work together to do that. I don't think pointing the finger to anybody is ever a good thing. We need to move forward and work together to try to do the best we can do. And I say that respectfully, Dick.
Oh, I agree with you, but spade is spade.
People process product. The village has a great product.
They do.
They have great people.
They do.
They have a horrible process right now.
In some
In
ways.
some ways. I mean, not all of it, Mike, but there's an
Well,
issue.
the thing is, when you try to work with people, that's where it gets complicated.
You're right.
Absolutely
mix-
complicated.
and
And you get a soft heart, you try to work with people, okay, I'll by Tuesday, well, it's Thursday, still don't have it, now what do I do? People make promises they can't make, and, you just try to do the best you can.
Yeah, it is, but they've got all kinds of help over there.
Well, my opinion, we may have to make some amendments, but I think we need to at least get the first reading of this run through and take it home, study it some more, and if we have more questions, and we can work this thing out by the time we get done, and hopefully it'll work for everybody. But we gotta start somewhere. And this is not something that we would wanna do as an emergency for any reason that I can see. So, let's get started and.
What if we change the $30 to each reconnection? To just $30 for period? That way it won't be so expensive.
Typically, that's what we do, because nobody typically comes in and just says, I want to just pay for my water and sewer, I just want to pay for
That's
my
what I thought,
water.
yeah.
So we would just say, okay, it's $30.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
only charge $30
I'm gonna do that next
to hook everything back. Yeah,
Well, it's worded not that way now.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so we got that down, it's flat $30.
So you could like get rid of said reconnection fee for each utility, boom, that could go off there.
So we just wanna take out for each utility.
Yeah.
So it will say said reconnection fee must be paid
For any?
for, yeah, any utility, well,
Just must be
Or-
paid for reconnect,
Yeah.
period.
because it says for each utility that was subject.
Just drop the second sentence.
Yeah, just drop that whole sentence is what I was asking.
Said recommendation fee must be paid
$30
for each utility that
reconnection fee
is
is
subject
paid.
to shut off. Just leave the first one, never, add the, after, should take
Yeah.
care of
Can we just say?
Okay,
Your
it. Is
generator.
that okay for you?
Yeah, works for me. That's fine.
You see anything else that doesn't seem in place?
How are we gonna notify people? I kinda like the old door knocking stuff, you know?
They get it in their bill.
Really?
they do get a
If they get
letter.
if they use electric, they get a bill. And if they're delinquent, they get a pink slip in their bill. If they can't see that, then.
I'm gonna say they're.
Well, that's what I was
theirs are pink
asking. I
and the
never
other
got
ones are
one, so I
white.
didn't know there was such thing as a pink slip.
Well,
that
yeah, if you're not delinquent, you'll never see one of those pink papers.
They are
Yeah,
pink,
that's-
they are
that's
pink.
why I was
Everybody,
asking.
everybody was in.
No, I deliver pink ones and I deliver regular ones,
I
yeah.
was gonna do mine on the last day, but.
She sends
Oh, well.
the current bill, which is on plain paper, and if it's a delinquent bill, that goes in with that one on the pink paper,
So
so
I
they
could-
get both.
They used
So I could know who
to,
was delinquent by looking at their mail.
Oh, pretty easily.
Give it to you.
well, they used to send one to the person that had, whose bill the name was in. And if it was a rental property, they sent it to the person that owned the property.
If there's a signed agreement.
A
Now, that
release.
was years ago.
Right.
We're
Exactly.
talking
That's
about
why
in
I
early
showed you that,
80s.
that form.
There's
Okay.
there's a gray area in the Ohio Revised Code, a little bit, but there's a right to privacy. And-
Yeah,
And
things have changed.
most people always go to the side of overcaution instead of.
Yeah, things have changed a lot
And
since.
Dick, we do knock on the door. The day we're gonna turn it off, we knock on the door first and politely let them know that unless you can get down, see Jerry, we have to shut it off.
So don't answer your door.
We shut it off, I'm sorry.
And the embarrassment comment wasn't, it's not so much, I don't think, for our guys, but we've had people come in here and say, please don't do that. Don't hang anything on my door because I don't want it.
Well, then don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was kind of for theirs also.
I'd be leery of those door knockers though, because I've seen a lot of them below, away. So, I mean, they could potentially say we were not notified. I see them on the ground all the
That's one
time.
of the reasons why we put it in the billing and, you
Yeah.
know, they know if they're delinquent.
Sure.
Well, I've seen too.
What Lisa
Thing is,
said
we
about,
don't.
the 10%, she said, now is that just billed one time, or then if they don't pay the next month, 10% on that whole amount? I mean, how
Our
is that done?
system is just a straight 10% once they're delinquent, is that correct?
I would have to double check with Jerry.
But I think
I mean,
that's-
that's what,
So
I've wondered
Depends on
that
the whole
before,
amount.
I've wondered that before.
Right.
So then
But
like
see,
the
what-
second month
What
would
this
be.
does, it pretty much eliminates that, that
Yeah,
length of
it
time.
would, right, it would, but I've wondered that before too.
You can't charge
You look here,
serious interest.
that's what's
You can charge a
delinquent,
penalty,
that was all
but by
that they
the time it rolls
were,
around
so
the
I
second
would say
month,
no.
you've already been penalized.
The one
It's
time.
interest, and you
That
can't
would
charge
be
to
my
your
understanding.
Yeah, I'll have to double check with her because I'm not.
But
sure.
based on the delinquent amount on that, because otherwise it would be a lot more than
Well,
that.
unfortunately, if everybody paid their utility bill on the
Okay.
16th,
That's
that would
sort of-
be a lot
okay.
more money.
Thank you.
I don't have one,
Right.
Jerry wasn't here.
Well, how do you figure you're gonna get that extra percentage every time they're late?
Yeah.
So you gotta be making money.
No, they're not.
That's money in the bank, isn't it?
That's why I say, if everybody would pay
Oh, I
their
thought you
bill on the
said-
16th,
Be better
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
their kilowatt went from whatever it is now, to
Yeah.
about
Up by
another
2%.
5 cents.
Well, and if we didn't have this type of carryover also, maybe in the future it would be possible that our electricity didn't cost us so much for everyone, if you want to look at it that way.
Well, what this will do, it'll clean up some of this backlog, and it'll keep the backlog from occurring, unless somebody else steps up and pays somebody else's bill. You know, that's just the way it's gonna be.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
Is there a way of assuring that the 10% penalty is done every month then? As evidently, there wasn't just a 10% one time. I think if the bill keeps on going unpaid, it should be 10% the total bill each time.
You're starting to get into usury laws now. That's Federal Banking Commission, and 10% per month is greater interest than the mafia charges. So,
Most municipalities I talked to said they charged it one time, but they also didn't let anybody go past 30 days.
Okay.
Well, see, that's where.
That was the issue. I mean, that's
Well,
where,
this is
when
what-
they stop it.
This will take care of that then.
Right, right.
Like I say, next month we can review it some more. If we need to modify it a little more, we can. By the time we get to the third month, hopefully we've got everything where it needs to be. I think it's a good start in the right direction.
So the landowners will be notified if the shut-off don't take place then? Yeah,
Only if
choose
we
one.
had-
Only
Only
if-
if we had something.
Only if one of these are signed, or
Yes, sir.
facsimile.
Or tax
Yeah.
yeah.
Or whatever. you come
Because
up with to
frankly,
clean it.
right now, I've been advised not to sign that form as the landowner. Because the signature of the tenant is a release of the tenant to have the information given to the landlord. If I sign that form, I'm agreeing to number 2, hypothetically, on that paper that makes me responsible for overage. And that's why I asked you to review it, to see if we could separate the release
Right.
that a tenant gives.
Yeah, we'll have the attorneys take a look at this and see if we can come up with
Thank you.
a way to get that.
So you want to go ahead and take care of this now, and then when they come up, when Reed comes up with something that's there later, vote on it next month then, or what?
We can have this revised for next month. You guys want to do a first reading on this, taking out that last sentence?
Okay.
It's just a first reading, it's nothing passed.
So this would be an ordinance, right?
Yes, this would be 17-9-1.
I move that we enact this ordinance 17